friends are since.
Another day means another attempt at doing something musical. I was going to do a gear video today, but I honestly couldn't be arsed, so I thought I would just make some music with my Eurorack, and I would kind of try and explain the process as I go, rather than just filming wee bits and pieces. So today what I'm going to do is try using this thing, which is the Turing machine, and it essentially comes up with random sequences and plays different notes based on some of the parameters that you set. I'm going to run that into... Did you hear that motorbike? It's strangely humid, so I've got the window open, so I apologise for the background noise. But I'm going to run the output of the Turing machine into a quantizer so that it'll actually play nicely within a scale that I can use. And then we'll go from there. I didn't know there's so many fucking motorbike owners in Glasgow, but there you go. So first of all, what I have to do is unpatch my previous patch that I had for another video that you might have seen by now. This bit is always kind of controversial. Some people try and work with the patch that's already there, but I like to start completely fresh, apart from a few bits and pieces which are the kind of clock and reset patches. So I'm going to unpatch all this, and then I'm going to patch up the Turing machine into the clock, and then I'm going to spit the output of the Turing machine into a quantizer, which is down here, either this U scale or this Penrose thing, and then we'll see what happens. So I found a sequence that I think is alright. The way it works is that the Turing machine comes up with some random melodies, as I mentioned. The output of that then goes into my Penrose quantizer, which keeps it within a kind of scale that is workable, so I don't get weirdo notes. That then goes out into my VCA and stuff, which is all just for hearing the sound. So what I'm going to do now is probably add on some effects to that. I'm going to then build in a second melody. I don't know what sequencer I'll use. I'll probably use this one, which is the Prisma Sequencer. I can't remember what this is called. I built this. One of the few DIY things I've successfully built. But I'll try this, and then I'll put it together, and then I'll just try to get some different sequences out of this thing, and then record them to my laptop, and I'll put them all together in there. The way I'm clocking all this is I'm using the ERM multi-clock as my master clock. It goes into the endorphin shuttle control here. I've got the expander so I can use the full-size MIDI DIN. It then goes into my Pamela's workout to give me some more breakout bits for clock divisions and stuff. And when it comes to recording on the laptop, all I'll do is switch the ERM multi-clock, so it's not the master anymore. The laptop will be the master, and it'll control the multi-clock. So, time to come up with some other sequences. I forgot to mention something quite important, and that is what the sound source is. The VCO I'm using is this Sid Guts Deluxe, which is from ALM. They make lots of cool things like this sampler, but the Sid Guts Deluxe has got a Commodore 64 SID chip in it. I can't remember what one is in this one. It is an actual SID chip. It's not like the Swin SID or any of the other emulations. I think it's a 6581, but I wouldn't quote me on that. I have had a wee bit of trouble with this module in the past. It's quite difficult to get the SID to play in tune, in the sense that if you go above a certain range, it doesn't really track very well over the octave. So I tend to stick to quite limited ranges, maybe within 1 octave, and that works much better. So that's why I'm sticking to kind of the lower registers, which sound much better, and actually when it comes to SID anyway. So that's the sound source I'm using for this main melody, in case you were wondering. What I'm doing now is I'm running the sequence through this A188-1 Bucket Brigade delay module. It's the 4096 stages one, and that gives it, just thickens up the sound a wee bit by adding a wee bit of a delay, which you can hear. Just gives it a wee bit of a thicker sound. Okay, so now what I've got is I've got a third version of the same bass line or same melody, and it's going into this dope for A1891 VBM, which is basically a voltage controlled bit crusher or a bit modifier, to use dope first terms. And the way I'm controlling this is I have basically an envelope that is triggered every so often by this clock divider here. And what happens is this goes into maths, which is an envelope generator, function generator thing. This generates an envelope in time with the song or the melody, and then it opens and closes, or at least changes the amount of bit modification that is applied to the signal. So then we get just a wee bit of a change as things go on. I shouldn't have put the washing machine on while I was doing this, because you can hear it in the next room, and it's just a sign clearly that I need to get my fucking tie clip mic fixed. So I've got my second sequence up and running now. It took a wee bit of time to find something that sounded alright and in tune and not complete shite. The bundle of wires, as you can see, has grown exponentially. What I've got for the second sequence here is, if I can figure it out, I've got a clock running out of Pamela's workout, which is about half the speed of the main sequence. That clock goes into this sequencer that I showed you earlier, this DIY Prisma thing, which I love. It's just very simple and colour based. It then goes into this VCO here, which again is just a basic dope for VCO. It goes into this fucking VCA thing to control the amplitude or volume or whatever. In terms of the effects though, because this is where it gets slightly interesting, I'm running it into this Plankton Electronics Jellyfish, which is a delay. Sounds wonderful. And then I've got a Pittsburgh modular reverb thing here, which is on the end and gives it a nice reverby sound. The eyes are not from the factory, they're my own addition. It's probably worth noting that I use quite a lot of dope for modules, and I think when I started in modular systems, Dopefer seemed quite boring because they were like single use, took up quite a lot of HP, and it seemed like they weren't all that exciting. But actually, as I've had my modular system for years, I've come to realise that there's something really good about the simplicity of the Dopefer modules, not least because they also don't cost that much money, relatively speaking. But there is something great about just having one module that does one thing really well and really deeply. And they're all actually top quality. So if you're interested in modular, don't overlook the Dopefer modules. But that's kind of it now for the basics of this patch. I've got my two sequences. I'm going to probably maybe modulate them slightly through a filter that opens and closes a wee bit. I might throw in an LFO somewhere on like the FM of the VCO, but I'll see. The next step is to record these sequences into the laptop, and that way I'll have the loops so that when or if I fuck this up, that I'll still have the sequences and I can use them later on. But then my plan will be to adjust the loops so that I can get variations, and then I'll add drums later on. But the thing about this is that the Turing machine, because it's so unpredictable, then it can be tricky to get sequences that work. So I might have to manually sequence the changes later, but we'll see how it goes. here we have it. I have a collection of different sequences now. I decided just to adjust the sequence on the fly and record the whole thing, and I'll go back and listen to it and cut up pieces. I don't usually like to do that because it takes a bit more effort in the computer. What I tend to do is I'll record the loop, stop the recording, figure out a different nice loop, record that so that it's in easier chunks. But this time I couldn't be bothered faffing about with Logic, because if you let it play, it kind of times out at some point and it can cause havoc with the multi-clock. But anyway, so I've got a bunch of loops. I'm now going to cut them up, find the bits I like. This is kind of the boring bit, and then I'm going to consider what I'll do for drums. I'll probably use the MPC because I'm enjoying using it for drums at the moment, and then I'll add on other bits if necessary. At this point, I now have my stems or my... What the fuck was that? At this point, I now have my basic structure set up. It's all chopped up into loops and nice and, you know, whatever. It's a wee bit repetitive at this point, but this kind of always happens at this stage because you're just listening to loops or sequences of loops, essentially. So I try and see past that to the end result and know that I can always change things about later. But now what I'm going to do is use the MPC, record some drums, and then that'll give a better idea of what I need to change within the song, because the percussion or the drums can add quite a lot, even to like quite a straightforward sequence. This dog is clearly wants to say hello. Say hello. Speak. Speak. Okay, well that's it. Right, MPC time. That's the drums done, drum loops written, recorded and chopped up. So now I'm at a place where I've basically got the song structure. It sounds alright, but it needs something to tie it all together. And this is one of the most difficult points because it's kind of like, what is the magic secret sauce, or not so secret sauce I guess, that will bind everything together in a beautiful cake-like way. Anyway, usually what I would do, or recently what I've been doing a lot, is using the Behringer VC340 because it's got this beautiful string sound which just adds a wee sprinkling of something over the top. But I've used that too much recently, so I want to find something else to use. And so I think what I'm going to do is use the... oops, shit, that's my phone. Use the Micro Monster because it's a digital polyphonic synth. It's got a whole bunch of sounds in there that I can't get from any of my other analog bits and pieces. So I'm going to do that and see. The tricky thing with this stage of the song is that you never know whether adding something in is going to be too much, especially because here I've got lots of delays and reverb and stuff, so the frequencies could clash. And then it becomes a case of whether removing things is better than adding them and all that kind of thing. But I'm going to record it, and then I think that'll be it, maybe. If it is it, I'll play the song out, and if it's not it, I'll tell you what I've added. But for now... Oops. Oh, fuck. Lesson number 1, don't knock everything in the fucking studio over when you're trying to record.